I guess after that, I'll put the. It's a little old, but at the same time, I would strongly recommend it.
Well, in some respects, the quality of the presenter is more important than the sort of the exact sort of being totally up to date, since
Definitely
everything gets stale within days with the rate of change in, if only in the Gutenberg plugin. I mean, a 2-week cycle. I don't know if you follow that at all, but the most recent release of the plugin, two of the things that I found really cool were the style book, which gives you a view, a pop-up window that presents all the blocks with the font and color scheme of your theme. So it's a form of previewing that allows you to see everything very easily and quickly. The other cool feature was if you make style changes to a block, you can, by clicking just one single button, make those changes, the settings for that block thereafter. In other words, it's like going to the global settings, finding the block in question, making the same changes to it. But now you can do it with the pending changes through the plugin, simply by making the changes and then clicking a button for the block that makes those global styles for that particular block. So I thought that was kind of cool.
It does sound cool.
The thank you for the those links. Traversy, that's a sort of a hard name to.
It's Traver, like traveler, Traver.
Right.
But he says it a few times in the videos.
Okay. Would anyone care to go first with what they are looking for help on? Who will be bold to go? Nobody yet? Anybody heard or got any interesting and noteworthy sort of WordPress news to tell us about while we?
I could, if you're looking, I don't have a really specific question. My name is Andy Pedersen, but I'm just the organization I work for. We are just sort of like working through a new version of a WordPress website for ourselves. We've got a site that's about 5 years old that is sort of locked for a variety of reasons at WordPress 5.3, I think. And so I'm sort of building fresh, basically, one sort of like as close to stock 6.1 as I can get it. I think that there's a lot of good reasons to sort of like keep it as simple as possible. But there is a, in our organization, I work for a big union called OPSEU, which has a significant number of our members are French. And so quick and accurate translation is a really important priority for the website. And so I'm just curious if people have experience with any of the different translation plugins out there. If they have any sort of recommendations. I'm at the point now where we haven't even decided if we're going to sort of keep it totally within the website itself. The system we have now is based on some rewrite rules. Any sort of time you hit the sort of like French button on our website, you're just seeing the same post, but it has some French custom fields in the post. And the union has staff translators. And so once something is published in English, they just go into that post and fill up the French fields. And then there are some rewrite rules happening, which I don't totally understand at this point, but then just presents that material using exactly the same theme on a different subdomain, or a different domain altogether, I should say. And so that's definitely a route we could go, or we could, we could try, the sort of like any of the big systems out there.
So this workflow that you're talking about, where the translators come in after the fact, so to speak, and then sort of selectively translate. Does anybody like that particular way of doing things? Is there any impetus to preserve that because it seems workable? I mean, it doesn't sound workable to me, but I'm just sort of asking.
Actually, I mean, from it seems to work quite well. The one place we run into a weird problem is that often there's something, I suspect it has to do with the caching, but at the end of the day, I don't know what it is, where sometimes it takes us quite a while and a lot of clicks clearing caches to get the French to show up after it's been added to a post that's already published.
Right.
One of the things that seems to me, although I don't have enough experience to know if this is really very valuable, but you know, we've got about, right at the moment, about 8,000 posts on our website. There's a lot of impetus to sort of like keep as much of that material as possible. And so when I look at things like, what's the big one, WPML, it looks like they will instantly double the number of posts that we've got. And so I don't know what the really sort of like the workable upper end to the number of posts you can have, but I worry about the idea of going from 7,000 posts to 15,000 posts.
Well, let me just introduce you to an outfit that was a sponsor of our Toronto meetups for a
I saw
period
that
of
in the
time.
thing, and I was wondering if somebody, yeah.
Yeah, an outfit called Weglot, Weglot, and I think there's a link actually on the event page. I'm not recommending them on the basis of having myself use them, but rather a handful of people that I know who have used the service and liked it. Its particular sort of claim to fame is that all the translation takes place off site, so to speak, with respect to the content. So when somebody makes a request for a page that's to be translated into French, it actually goes to their server, is translated there, with AI, several different AI machines and processes, and then comes back. And this is all sort of seamless to you on the site end and to the user. And because it's a fairly sophisticated service, you get all the benefits of building your own dictionary for automatic translation of certain terms that you want done a certain way, of being able to write write content that starts in French and then obviously doesn't get translated or sent through the scheme. It doesn't provide any load on the WordPress site or server, obviously, because it's not happening there, it's happening elsewhere. There is for some a cost consideration because it's based on the number of words that are processed in a given period. But if you're carrying on a business in effect and quality translation is valuable, meaning it's not just Google Translate, it's rather better than that, we're told. Although underlying most translation services are the same set of AI engines, translation engines, Weglot says they have a better selection and better tuned to the purposes they're putting them to. Anyway,
I'm more interested. Sorry, not to cut you off, but I'm more interested not in the sort of the quality of the translation, but what is the most efficient system? What is going to sort of like?
Yeah, the Weglot one would be, to my way of thinking, the most efficient because it doesn't present any load or work other than just simply managing how you want it to work. So once you've decided on how you want to configure it or use it, then that's it. You step back and it just works. There's no.
Are you able to adjust the style on the French pages?
I just want to, don't just step back. Get the translators to read over the auto translation and because there might be repairs, you might find yourself saying something you didn't actually mean to say.
Well, that would be the case, Sandy, wouldn't it, with anything that's not translated by humans?
Sorry?
Would that not be the case in any way of translating that isn't done by a human?
Any auto translate,
right?
Like by a human, for sure, you still have to proofread it, but by an AI, you really have to proofread it, right?
Well, I'm not sure if that's true these days with
Weglot,
for example, but also if you look and see what's
happening
happening with the Chat GPT scheme, it fools people quite regularly in the 3 months that it's been out.
Yeah.
People aren't able to tell it from a human's writing. And so I think that speaks well from the translation point of view as well. In addition, in other words, if they can speak English that well, it can probably speak French pretty well too. I don't think that's available as a language translator, but I'm just saying, I agree, you should check to reach a point where you're satisfied that you know the strengths and weaknesses of the translation scheme, but they're bound to be the odd error sort of creeping in. In any event, I just wanted to introduce Weglot because of the background we have with it, but there are lots of other choices, and I'm sure some of the other people here
Well,
tonight.
can I just ask specifically about Weglot? So you know, a consistent design challenge dealing with French is that it is almost always longer. There are almost always more words, and sometimes significantly more words. And that even, you know, when you're getting down to sort of like portraying your menu in French, you run into problems pretty quickly where the sort of French words are a lot bigger and longer. So with Weglot, if you've got direct experience with Weglot, can I just sort of like change the French point size to 0.9 rem, where the body size
To
is
tell you the truth, I don't know if you can have a French side style sheet, so to speak, as opposed to one style sheet for all, or for, you know, whatever the style sheet that governs the page being limited to that. But that would be fairly easy to ask them. Simply, I mean, I'm sure an email would get a quick response as to whether or not it's possible to address this aspect of English to French, because that would clearly be an issue for lots of, you know, nav menus. Obviously, you know, they're crafted with the length of words pretty clearly in mind, right?
Mhm.
So
I
your
just
problem
Andy.
is not more acute. Well, it is more acute, but it still exists, you know, in any translation situation.
Why not just have the page scroll longer? I mean, you're big enough that you're obliged to comply with the AODA, right? The accessibility for
Absolutely.
so you have to comply. You have to have a font size that's at least 1 M. I mean, the beauty of the web is that you can just scroll, just make it longer.
But Sandy,
But
how does that
no, for
work in the
sure.
context of a menu item that is 10 characters in English and 40 characters in French? You appreciate that menu items just can't extend themselves in the same way that
Then you wrap
a text
menu.
block can.
You wrap the menu.
Okay, I mean, I don't see that as a workable thing, just simply saying, let it expand.
Not
People
expand.
fight over these things in English. I can't imagine them saying, the hell with it in French, just whatever size it turns out, it's okay.
Can I just ask, is there anybody here in the room who's got like uses translation heavily on any of their sites, has direct experience with one of the systems?
No.
I only just use Google Translate, to be honest.
But I mean, in terms of serving different content on your website, not general. My problem, fortunately, I know it's a lucky problem. I don't have to worry about getting quality translation because we get staff that do it. It's a matter of what's the easiest way for them to sort of like get their stuff on the site, and the best way for us to seamlessly then show that stuff alongside the English.
Would it be possible to have the French translation work done so that the English and French can be published at approximately the same time?
What's the benefit of that?
Well, simply because presumably you are not discriminating against the French reading.
Oh yeah, but is there a technical benefit to it? I mean, you know, obviously we have to do it as quickly as we can, but
Yeah.
you know, I want to keep this focused on the technical aspects of how you handle translation.
Right.
Through WordPress.
Right, because it occurred to me is if you have the translators, then it's a different translation problem. It's more managing the work than it is translating the content, right? And so some plugins will be stronger in that regard than they might be in the actual translation exercise itself.
Right, and so that's
just something important.
What I'm asking the room, does anybody have direct experience with something they either care to recommend or care to warn me against?
If anybody does, please speak up. You have some fans in the chat window when we're finished this section to say hello to them. Okay, I'm sorry, but I guess, Andy, this is the best we can do for you. Are there translation forums or places where people interested in translation hang out? Because
Well,
Translation's
tell me
pretty-
this, here's maybe a more general question I can put to the room. Is 7,000 posts?
No, no,
is that bad?
no more questions from you.
Is 7,000 posts like,
Nope.
is this a large?
No,
site?
no.
Oh,
No more
sorry, are you
questions.
serious?
Yeah,
Did
I'm
you
serious.
Pipe down? Okay.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
No,
No, I'm being
Andy,
serious.
The
No, I'm just kidding.
there's not a
No, I'm being
problem
serious.
with
Drew.
with
more.
having
Nope,
7,000 posts or
Nope.
15,000
Nope. Drew. No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Here's what I wanted to say. 7,000 is not the right number.
What's the right
Hmm.
number?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, gentlemen,
Right,
let's just
so
continue.
anyway,
So
there isn't a
anyway,
problem
as
with
I was
having
saying,
2,000
if we
and-
could just move on to Sanjay
Robin,
next.
do you mind if
we
I
so
I'm
that-
trying to
move-
figure it
but
out right now.
I'm trying to figure out how we can move on to the next person.
Well, it's not really yours to decide. So,
It is. It is.
Well, not.
I already talked to Jolie before we hopped in here, and she said it's cool. So
Who's Jolie?
she runs the group.
Uh-oh.
I'm afraid you're in the wrong group, fella.
So
Anyway.
I just removed that gentleman.
Okay, because I just put him in the waiting room as
Okay.
the quickest thing. What did you do?
Okay. I clicked on security and then remove participant, but
Okay.
I'm not sure he didn't disappear immediately, so I wonder
Wow.
if,
He was rude.
yeah, I wonder if I actually got rid of, I don't see Andy here anymore. I think I actually might have,
No, I'm here.
oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Sorry, guys, but give us a minute just to sort this out because we don't want to be, we've only been bombed once. And that was really painful. So, so Drew, under the security button, you did the remove participant
Yes.
and
But it was at the same time and it didn't ask me who I wanted to remove though.
it would probably be whoever's front and center.
Or where, yeah, I'm assuming it would remove whoever is speaking.
Anyway, he's not there now. And what I had tried to do was just using the more button in the participants window and choosing mute. Where is it? Somewhere here, just clicking the mute button. And
Oh,
that didn't seem to
actually-
have any particular effect.
Yeah, and I also found if you click on the three dots on any particular user,
Yeah.
you'll see right at the second last item is removed. So you can pick a person. and
Which
remove.
three dots though? Where are the three dots?
So if you
Like in the participants window?
Yeah, if you hover the mouse over the person's picture and there's an option for mute and then three dots.
Okay, mine says mute is one button and then the other is more, which is the same as three dots.
Okay, and if you click on the more, do you get?
The second last item is remove
Yeah.
and the next to last item is put in waiting room. So that's what I
Yeah.
did first.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I
so-
think the remove worked
Yeah.
because he would surely be back passing us now otherwise.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're good to return to normal.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Drew. Any comments, guys, on that little episode, or shall we move on to the next point or issue? I guess we don't have any more comments to offer Andy on the translation question.
No, but I'm getting some good help in the chat, so.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
good to move on.
Yeah, Sanjay asked if how the chat transcript might be available, and I put in the chat window that it is in the YouTube video that I upload for the session. I paste the transcript into the page that the video is available on. And then there's an email to members of our group that the video has been published. So, Sandy, you're up. Did you want to speak?
I just want to say, Andy, I did a site, and this is really old, like it really old, and it's in, I think, four different languages, and there's just a JavaScript that kind of switches from language to language, right? Like just saying, if you're using Russian on this page, then use French on that page, kind of thing. Like you just same page name, little JavaScript going, okay, go here now. But I don't know if that's suitable. It's not really a word. It's not a word. It's a hand-coded site. That's how old it is.
Oh, it wasn't WordPress even.
No,
Yeah.
but I'm just wondering, like, if you need actual translation software, you've got translators. You just need like a name thing in a JavaScript switcher to go from one to the other, right?
And I think that's essentially the system they're using right now. But like I say, there's something, we have real cache troubles with it. And so it could be a simple fix, and we just don't, have the technical skills to pull that off. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll sort it out.
Oh, well.
I think one of the things that you'll find with caching is that it nowadays occurs on
It's all over the place.
4 or 5 levels of activity, from the site itself all the way to the user's browser, and several points in between, including the host and the CDN that you're using, and a caching plugin and so on. So hitting all those caches to refresh the content may simply be that there's 1 or 2 that you're not hitting because there are 5 or 6 of them running, which when you think about it, sort of sounds a bit scary, but who knows?
No, it's hard to keep track. And then we also, for reasons that we don't really understand these days, it was set up before a lot of the people working there now. We also have a expensive subscription to a CDN, even though most people are coming to the site just from Ontario. But we're sort of like blasting material out all over the world on
Right.
CDN servers as well, which might be part of the problem we're running into.
Well, I mean, Cloudflare is, if not the biggest, one of the biggest, and starts at a very low level, free. And I don't know what the tiers are as far as volume goes, but that's certainly one to have a look at if you're paying a fair bit, because CDNs, like so many things, used to be a lot more expensive than they are now. I mean, just look at what's happened to SSD storage costs in the last 10 years. It's been absolutely remarkable. I calculated the other day that a device that I just bought was 10,000 times cheaper than the first big mass storage device that I bought. And so that's just the passage of time. Anyway, let me check the. Right. Okay. So next question, please. Do we have a volunteer? Or someone like to bring up something they wish to discuss? We'd be happy to hear it, or some news of the day.
I've got a question. Oh, sorry, Aashish, go ahead.
No, it's fine. You guys can go ahead. I'll listen. I like to learn anyway. That's fine. I'll go after you.
Okay, I posted my question in the chat anyways, but I guess I'll ask it here. So my site has 38 plugins. I've been told that having more than 4 is too many, and that's what's slowing down my site. I've tried uploading a plugin, cache plugin, and then that started to crash my site. And so I'm just trying to figure out why is that. I've tried many different cache plugins, such as NitroPack. That doesn't work. That really crashed my site. I've tried all of the WordPress plugins, and they also crash my site. So I'm just trying to figure out why is that happening.
When you say crash your site, what actually happens when the site crashes?
I get a critical error message, right? So it goes white, and also certain fields, even the background color will change from black to white. it then, because on my website, there's a parent theme and there's a child theme, right? So the child theme is the customized theme that everybody sees. And then there's the parent theme. I guess I'm not sure what's happening in the background, but when I install the object or the cache plugin, it then for some reason starts to show the parent theme, which isn't what I want people to see.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
What version of WordPress are you running on?
6.1.
So you're up to date.
Up to date, yes.
And you've got 38 plugins now.
Yes.
And you know them well enough to be able to say, you're not carrying any sort of excess baggage, that you've got a reason and a purpose behind. I mean, they obviously introduce overhead, number one, number two, security, number three,
Right.
that's just the maintenance, the time and effort to maintain them. But if you're satisfied that you need the 38, then I'm not sure, Drew, whether you would think that there's a magic number, which when you reach it, you've got a problem. I was using a personal site until pretty recently that had 60 plugins running on it, and it ran just fine. I mean, it was performant sufficiently that no one ever thought that there was a heavy load on the server. So I personally, I'm not sure there's any magic in the number of plugins, because plugins vary so greatly in what they do for you and what they demand in the way of resources to run. And so picking a number seems rather arbitrary to me.
Yeah, agreed. Michael, I would want to know also with the parent theme, do you know if it is updated to the latest version and if the theme is still being updated by the author?
That's just it. I'm not sure. My guess is it's not. It's called DocTreat. So it's actually designed for medical doctors, but I'm using it for a different purpose, which is why the customized theme, the child theme, is so heavily customized for that reason. But it seems as if they're constantly fighting for dominance, right? The customized theme versus the parent theme.
And did you do any of the customization of the child theme?
No, not at all.
Because that seems to me to be sort of a potential nightmare, in that anytime you inherit a site with a lot of customization and then problems occur, it's pretty hard to diagnose them. You might run debug mode on the site and then one of the plugins that's giving you a problem, and just see what the messages are.
Oh yeah, I've done that, and it's always it's usually the cache plugin, and one of my my Revolution slider, which I just finally updated, so that resolved that issue.
Right, and who's your host?
I'm using WordPress.
WordPress.com.
I'm sorry, I'm using GoDaddy Linux. Yeah, GoDaddy.
GoDaddy, because do they not have a caching plugin to provide?
They do, but none of them work. They have a number of them, and yeah, they all lead to the same outcome. I mean, I tried. NitroPack it worked amazing. It really speed up my site, but then it crashed it within minutes. Not even hours, just minutes.
A lot of these issues are either theme conflicts or plugin conflicts. And so I would suggest checking to make sure that you, in fact, do have the latest updated version of this theme. And install the latest update. The second thing to do would be to temporarily switch over to one of the standard themes. Now, your site won't look right with the standard theme in, but what I'd be interested to know is if it still crashes with when you're using caching. And that will, if it's fine with the if it's fine with the standard theme, that sort of tells you where your problem is, and you'll probably want to look into changing your theme. Since this theme is so heavily modified, it sounds like the theme that you've got really isn't suiting your needs. That's why you had to modify it so much.
Right. Right.
Would you, Brian, if I've heard you correctly, I think you inherited the customized site, right?
Yes, I did. It's Michael. Yes, I did.
Oh, sorry, Michael. So it wasn't a question of it suits your purposes to go through this customization exercise. That's just the starting point. For sometimes strange solutions can work. And so if you don't want to deal with the theme and the child theme for whatever reason in terms of its features, one way around the caching problem is to have a headless version of the site, and so therefore serve up static pages that therefore don't need caching at any level.
Right.
There are plugins out now that purport to offer a painless way to produce the static version of a site or set of pages or just a designated subset of pages. And lots of tutorials around on how to develop a headless version of a site, starting from a local dev environment like the local app. That site, Drew, that I mentioned earlier, egghead.io, had a course specifically on WordPress and how to sort of go headless from developing on local. And while I didn't get a chance to go through it, it did look interesting. It's sort of a strange solution because Drew's solution or approach is the better one to address the theme. But we all know that sometimes you're in circumstances where the theme and the customized child theme you're stuck with. And if you don't have the developer chops to go into the customizations and sort them out, then it's either an all or nothing proposition on changing the theme or doing something radical like getting rid of caching altogether.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely an expensive problem, and having to always contacting the developer, and then obviously there's a cost to that to fix whatever existing problems that to fix the problem.
What is can we just ask a little bit about the site? Like what kind of information on the site? How much?
So it's a
what kind of
tutoring
people use
site.
it?
It's a tutoring site where people can upload or advertise their tutoring business on the site. They could upload their pictures, location, they're even their own websites if they have one onto the site.
And so there are features in the theme you're using that you don't think are available elsewhere or in a currently supported theme?
I'm sure there are, but I really like all of the features with this theme,
right?
That I just don't see anywhere else.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good developer then to have come up with a theme that grabs you to that extent and then holds you through this level of suffering.
Yeah, I know.
So, well, I hope we've been a little bit of help. Just to summarize, so Drew's view is to find a way to localize the problem to the theme if possible, and then follow through on the theme, or try some radical approach, which for which one example is headless, but there must be others. But you'd only go to that if you really couldn't get the theme updated and the customizations understood and working properly.
Right.
And if the problem isn't the theme, then it could be one of your plugins, in which case you just have to cycle through the plugins either individually or in batches and see if it's a conflict with one of your plugins.
Right, that's something I haven't done yet, so that's a homework for me. I'll look into it, but thank you.
Well, yeah, and the way there are posts online about procedures to go about testing for plugin conflicts or coming out of a crash with all your plugins turned off and then reactivating them in a series of sort of controlled steps to, as efficiently as possible, identify whatever plugin is causing the crash by creating a new crash that is just when the plugin in question happens to be running, and therefore you can identify it.
I have just another thought is, if you're going to do this, see if your host can back up the site, give you a staging environment to work in where you can try different, you know, turning things off and turning them back on and enabling and disabling and, you know, do the different thing without your users going, wait, where's the thing? The thing I want to use, it was just here and now it's gone. So if you can get a staging site, you can get in there and really mess around without it being in public. That's my 2 cents worth.
No,
I think the other
appreciate it.
advantage with a staging site is that you can move more quickly because the risk of blowing something up is addressed by simply throwing out and replacing the thing that blew up. And
Yeah.
so that means that as far as like documenting what your steps are and having an audit trail of some sort, or just things that you do in order to control your own work so that you know where you are or what you've done if you've gone through a series of steps. So the staging site gives you more freedom in that regard and less stress, which I find to be quite valuable.
Right. I hear you. Well, thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who was it that was also looking to speak just before Michael or at the same time?
That was me.
And which one are you?
Ashish?
Aashish.
Yes.
Fire away, Aashish.
Well, it's not anything well, I was actually trying to see if, and this probably isn't very related to what you guys are doing here, but I have a lot of traffic coming on a single page of my website, but the bounce rate is really high. And I think I'm trying to target what the user's intent is, but I can't figure out why they just come over there, they click on random things, and then they go away. Is this something maybe you have an idea about what I can do? It's frustrating, and it's not a money page, it's just an informative page. It's just that's all they do. They just scroll up and down really quickly. They're there for less than 10 seconds and then they run off. I just wanted to know if there's something that you guys could offer or suggest, or if you guys experience anything like this in your I don't know, in your work or something like that.
Well, either they immediately got their answer to their question and left, in which case your page was successful, or they got frustrated and didn't get their answer and left, in which case your page is unsuccessful. So I know that that's not a very helpful answer.
Yeah,
it would be interesting to know where your traffic is coming from.
well, it's
Like, for example, would it not be worthwhile to have the IP addresses of the visitors to the page and see if there's a pattern to them?
well, that's the thing. It's a regional, localized website, which is very specific, and most of my traffic does come from that region. So it is the right kind of people. They are coming from the right
But
geographic region.
do you know whether it's a different person each time, or it's the same IP address, or the same small number of IP addresses?
No, it's a different person each time. I actually track it using Hotjar as well, and I track it using AW Stats. So it's multiple people daily coming, looking for it. They're using the right search terms, but maybe somehow I'm not targeting or trying to figure out what their intent is, which is frustrating, because that's
what you could sort of write a note at the top of the page that sort of explains the situation, that you've been getting hits on this page, but you're uncertain as to exactly what people are looking for. And then provide a little field for people just to type in something to you, you know, something lighter in weight than an email message or a text message. But I mean, there's no harm in asking. And if you don't get any useful information back, well, you haven't spent much in the time and effort to make the request. I mean, you can sort of enhance the request and make it look like somehow that you want to make the page more effective for the users. Is the page providing all the information, or is there something to be added to it? Let me know and I will add it, kind of thing. That might draw interest and responses.
Ashish, what do you want people to do when they reach this page?
Okay. Ideally, I'd like for them to go from that informational page to a subset of a product which I'm trying to sell. So, if, for example, if they're looking at things like top 10 things to put in a backpack, and then they look at the top 10 things, and then from there they go and try to buy the backpack or so. So that's pretty much the concept that I have there. And at the bottom of the page, below all the information that there is, it shows like little snippets, not snippets, but like links to the individual ranges of backpacks that we offer. So
and you're finding people don't go to those links in the
No.
manner you expect. Is that it?
Yeah, that's correct. Which is really odd to me, but that's what I'm facing. But I will try what you mentioned, because I did see a couple of plugins out there that whenever a person tries to bring the cursor up to exit out of that tab, it sort of puts a pop-up like we're sad to see you go. Put in your
Right.
email.
You could also, I mean, because you can create a Google form that feeds a spreadsheet so easily these days, you could try as an alternative just a 3-question survey that takes under 60 seconds to complete, and very little in the way of effort on your part to then get the data and look at it. That's an alternative to a free form sort of text message saying, I'm trying to accomplish something with this page. Am I accomplishing it? Or can you suggest, what it's missing or should have, kind of thing. But treat this as an opportunity to have a conversation with the people who visit the page, and you might be surprised at the results.
Also, Ashish, this sounds more like an informational article rather than a purchase intent article. The top 10 things to put into a backpack is not necessarily going to attract somebody who's about to buy a backpack. However, an article on the top 10 things to look for in a backpack, or how to choose a backpack, might get more people actually buying backpacks.
Maybe just changing the title, do an A/B sort of test, duplicate the page, but reorient the startup of it to what Drew's talking about, but maybe leave the body of the content somewhat similar to what it is now, because those keywords are working for you. But just make the page's context a little different, and then have that as a random draw to see who gets which page and which result comes from them. And then you got, through a comparison, you can gain some insight from that.
A couple of things. One, yes, the idea which I gave was like top 10 things to put in a backpack. That wasn't the exact idea. That wasn't the exact title. It was actually more about like first aid kits, content boxes, and regulations for your region or city. So I thought that would be something that should turn from an informational or a navigational thing into a product purchase. I understand. I've never tried the A/B testing thing, but I will try to do that. I think that is the next step for me to follow, and I hope I'll be able to get that done.
It would also be a good suggestion to put perhaps at the bottom of the article links to similar articles on your site. So even if they're not interested in that particular article, they might stay on your site and look at other articles.
Yeah, I already made a silo kind of structure over there for other things, but once they scroll past an image, which I believe has all the information they need, they just freaking leave. But I will try to do that, because at the bottom there were links to other articles and to related products, which in my case were not backpacks, but like, first aid kits or
Okay.
first aid boxes and so forth.
Does your page have sidebars or one or both?
It has a rights. Well, this is technically a blog post, which takes a lot of traffic, which gets a majority of traffic. And I do have sidebars over there, as well as like an not an FAQ, but at the bottom of the actual article, there are links to other.
Right. The reason I bring that up is just that with a sidebar, you could introduce something close to the top of the page rather than the notion of at the end that someone will consume the content, be at the end of the page, and there's where the information should be to go elsewhere. If you move that up somewhat as an experiment, really, to find out if it's just the timing of the information or the, in a sense, the placement of it rather than the information itself. I mean, that's a possibility.
Also, Anish, the fact that your article is getting a lot of traffic means that there's a lot of interest in the title. There's a lot of interest in your topic. So I would try Googling your topic keywords and see what comes up in the top 3 to 5 articles in that, because that's the quality of those top 3 to 5 for those keywords are what you really have to match in order to get people's interest.
What it might also tell you what's working for these other people who rank well for those keywords, right? Are they informational content or is it promotional content? Is it long or short form? Is it, plainly laid out, or is it a complex sort of thing that you have to be determined to get through it, to consume it? I mean, those things might be helpful by way of comparison with your page, because you're trying to understand behavior without the people there who are, doing the things in question that you want to know about. So comparing it to pages which are similar from their keywords might be insightful.
Okay, I've got a lot of small tweaks I can do now. Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just to mention, because it's come up, we do publish this recording on YouTube. So if you've had a question answered and not been able to make notes because you're paying attention, then just be aware of the time, and then you can go and check the video and just rewatch the 10 minutes in question, and not have to suffer through the whole video. Just to recapture some point that was made or idea that was expressed.
Cool.
All right, next up, who would like to go forward here? Is Alina there? Can you unmute? Is there anything that we can help you with? I'm not sure if you've spoken.
Yes, I'm on mute, but I don't really have many questions right now, just because I'm attending the session
Sure,
to
I mean,
learn what kind of questions. do
yeah, you're
come
not
up.
under no obligation to speak up. I'm just encouraging anyone to speak up if they wish. And in your case, you're welcome to, we used to call that lurking in news groups when you would attend, but really just to get a feel and understanding of what goes on as opposed to become an active participant. But you're welcome to be here and not present a question or problem or issue. How about anybody else who's on our list that we haven't heard from? We've heard from Michael, from David, Aashish, Sanjay. Sanjay, did you want, you were looking for resources for someone with a bit of technical know-how to learn WordPress. And there are now more people in the group than when we talked about this at the very outset. Did you want to canvass some more opinions?
Yes, if somebody would be like, I'm trying to design a website which will have blogs on a weekly basis and a newsletter.
Right. Now, did you get the recommendation of WP Beginner, that site?
I'll subscribe to it. That's a good starting point.
Right. But did someone give you the, what is it, WP Beginner? Is that all there is to the name? Or the URL? I'm trying to think. Yeah, here it is. All right. I wonder if I can just drag and drop it. Yeah. So you can take a URL that's in your browser address bar and drag and drop it into the chat window. You don't have to copy it and paste it, which is kind of cool. And I think, who was it that put in the learnwordpress.org? There it was. Yes, that's up from Bryan at 6:37 in the chat window. And yes, he had 3 YouTubes. Let me give you as well oh, and just because it's a trick that everybody should know, if you just type into your browser address bar w.org, right, you'll get wordpress.org. I don't know what they paid for that particular domain, but it must have been expensive, right? A 1-letter domain. There's only 26 of them in, in the .org TLD. Right. And so now, well, it's, yeah, if you look at the, when I just share my screen for a moment, here we go. Yes, so this is the site, and then here's the subsite or area of the site in question. And there is a calendar as well. Let me find where mine is. Can't remember. Learn calendar. Here we go. I happen to find this particular calendar to be quite helpful because there are a number of these sessions and you sometimes can miss the announcement of them. But also it brings up the point that the quality does vary somewhat. And so, for example, if there's anything relevant to your interests from Nick Diego, for example, I would, go to great lengths to hear him speak. Who is the other one? Daisy Olson is another person with the sort of developer chops who presents very well in a very easygoing but informative and clear style. There's another fellow who seems to know what he's talking about, and he knows that he has a tendency to speak too quickly for some people to follow. And so, he's trying, but the unfortunate thing is that he's not successful in trying. And so what I found is that spend 5 minutes listening to the session, decide whether it's worth getting the recording. And then when you get the recording, change the playback speed to a lower level, because I actually checked from one of the transcripts of his session. He runs about 225 words a minute. And the recommended speaking rate is 130 to a maximum of 150 words per minute. And so he's more than 50% too fast. But also in the context of a technical webinar, you have the person speaking, what they're doing, in terms of code or changing or doing things which you are trying to do on your end, plus make notes of what's going on, plus keep track of what's in the chat window, plus check the transcript to clarify some point that was spoken quickly and you didn't catch. And so you've got 5 or 6 things simultaneously. I think they used to call that multitasking, but it's now got a bad rep. So the whole point here just being identifying the people who are really good means that not only do you learn, but you learn in an enjoyable, relaxed sort of context, which I think is very beneficial. Any other any recommendations, guys? Drew had mentioned the WP Beginner, so I put that into the chat. But any other suggestions, guys, are welcome. Sandy, you must have some ideas on good resources for people who want to learn. You still there, Sandy?
I'm faded out a little bit.
Okay, no problem.
Beginner is pretty good. Yeah, that's all I can think of right now.
Okay. Well, we don't need to torture ourselves if we've sort of addressed the questions of people who are attending, and no one has any particular opinion to express or news to relate. We don't need to hang out here just for the sake of it. What do you say, David?
I appreciate the comments and suggestions that you've made, and I was about to sign off anyway because I have another commitment, but thank you very much.
Okay, glad you could attend and get something out of it. Sounds useful. Right. Okay, Drew, any thoughts, or are we ready to sign off?
No, nothing more.
Okay, well, thank you all for joining. We had 40 RSVPs, and that normally produces something around, upwards of 20 people who attend, but we seem to be light now. Although we had a great turnout at Christmas, which surprised people because it was the week of, the week of Christmas, and usually that's competes with many other activities.
Don't underestimate the number of people trying to get away from their families.
Yes, yes. And just for people who are attending fresh to our particular group, this group meets Monday on the third Tuesday of each month. And we're going to continue to be online, certainly for the next handful of months. We did originally have in-person meetings, which were then, I think they were streamed on YouTube, but I've noticed that Zoom has just one button click to stream this session, or as any Zoom session, to YouTube. But I'm not sure what the great advantage of that is, and why one would prefer that, unless there's going to be hundreds of people, right? More than the Zoom call can accommodate. Or perhaps it's just because you want it to be not to be interactive. Obviously on YouTube, it's listen only or watch. Okay, guys, let me save the transcript. Actually, I know where that is. Okay. Any final comments, or I will shut down?
No, okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night, all. See
Right.
you next month or sooner.
Night.
Bye.